I saw your commentary about the manliness ad, and you said that that wasn't manly.
So I don't think you are convincing men to vote for women by making commercials where you say, here's how men should act.
While Tim Poole might not like this, the majority of men actually do respect women.
So they're making the pitch to men. Hey, get over your misogyny and choose the right candidate who actually has a plan that will uplift all of us.
Kamala has a problem with male voters.
Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally.
Christian male voters. But is it because Republicans are radicalized and anti-woman, or because they refuse to vote for a uniquely bad candidate who happens to be a woman?
We have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke.
I think you know the answer to this question, but we'll have a lot of fun talking about it today on Indie Thinker. Welcome to the show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Today's show is sponsored by our friends over at Faith Comes by Hearing. Now, if the Word of God has been an impact in your life, you know how important it is that we translate it into as many languages as possible and spread it as far and wide as we can. But maybe you haven't thought about one simple problem there. What if an individual in a different culture doesn't know how to read? Well, our friends over at Faith Comes by Hearing has totally solved that problem. Not only are they actively translating the Bible into as many languages as possible, but also they've revolutionized the process of Bible translation by providing small devices that are solar powered that can be shipped out in the most remote places that you can possibly think of so that individuals can hear the Word of God spoken in their own language. Again, if the Word of God has been meaningful to you, if it's impacted your life, if it's changed your life, and we all know that it has, then we want to make sure that we spread the gospel and the Word of God as far as we can to as many different people as we possibly can. And our friends over at Faith Comes by Hearing is doing that. If you want to give to this amazing work, make sure to go over to faithcomesbyhearing.com, and when you do so, let them know that Indie Thinker sent you. Before we start the show, a big announcement. This Sunday, I have a brand new Indie Thinker guest show with Brandon Robertson. He's probably one of the most high-profile progressive Christians in the landscape today.
This was pretty awkward for me when I was studying to become a Christian pastor, and I realized that I was gay.
And he's very influential in Gen Z, especially for those who lean more progressive. So you don't want to miss it. We have a conversation about hell that's absolutely fantastic. So make sure you're subscribed so that you can be notified when that new guest show drops this Sunday. Now that we're back to reality, is it possible that men are not voting for Kamala Harris because of Kamala Harris? Because she's a bad candidate and it has nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman? I mean, certainly men are experiencing a problem in America. They are. Fatherlessness is at an all-time high. Prolonged adolescence continues to keep men in their late 20s living at home and playing video games. But one of the clear signs that manhood is in crisis is not that men refuse to vote for Kamala Harris, but that is hard to communicate to feminists. They don't think that anything that they've done might have something to do with the crisis of manhood that we're experiencing in America, but through their bitter man-hating, they cannot see that. They just simply think that when you see man and woman, gender is the only thing that is to blame. And obviously it's misogyny that is causing men not to want to vote for Kamala Harris. However, if you want to be an independent thinker and think for yourself a little bit beyond that, then it's important to ask questions like, why aren't men voting for Kamala Harris largely? Why aren't black men that interested in voting for Kamala Harris? Well, we're going to jump into a conversation today that took place on Piers Morgan's Uncensored between Tim Poole, some other people, and a very intelligent, not emotional feminist. I don't know what her name is, but it really doesn't matter to the ultimate argument of the show and what we're going to be talking about. So let's jump into this conversation and see if we can maybe somehow figure out why men are not voting for Kamala Harris. Let's jump into it.
Listen, I mean, there's so much to debunk there, and it's
there we
really...
go. The name.
Vinny, you had your moment, okay? Please, I've been very quiet here, listening to you guys as the woman, as you explain misogyny to everyone
I knew you were going to go there. I love women.
You know, because I'm a... Oh, you love women. I'm sure they love you too. Listen, this is going to be determined by women. This election is going to be determined by women. And women are not only, we saw it in 2022, this country has turned out in response to Roe v. Wade, not just because it's an attack against abortion rights and abortion access and the right to choose, but also it shows that the Republican Party and Donald Trump have had an agenda, not only through cutting off clinics, funding to clinics across the country, attacks on IVF, not only with their online agenda, like Tim Poole here, who was funded by the Russians, let's not forget, that they had an agenda to sway young male voters into being radicalized through disinformation campaigns. This is all out there at this point. Part of the gender divide here right now, is because folks like Tim Poole and others who once said that they were Bernie Sanders supporters, who I worked for, were suddenly pulling people away and pulling young men away and radicalizing them. So I think we have a problem with young men right now, and that they don't respect women, as you're seeing with Vinny. They don't respect facts. They don't read newspapers. They don't understand polls. They don't understand misogyny. They don't understand people of color, and they don't understand that immigration bill was blocked.
And you know what,
by Donald Trump and his Republicans.
Namiki, I'll come to Tim for a response, but Namiki, what you may not understand is it's precisely that attitude towards younger men that is driving them to Donald Trump. And I think the election in the end will not be won with women, it will be won with men. And interestingly, increasing numbers of Black American men and Latino American men. So Tim Poole.
Can I just challenge that for a second?
You can challenge it.
Men don't turn out at the same rates as women. It's really important. Women have a higher rate of turnout, they're more reliable voters, and young women are more left than they've ever been because of a lot of the online hate that they're seeing. So while Tim Poole may not like this, the majority of men actually do respect women and do like to talk to them. And I think, is there misogyny? Sure.
Why would Tim Poole not like people to respect women?
Now, all I have to say at the beginning of this is, calm down, lady. You're getting a little emotional. Let me explain to you why men don't want to vote for Kamala Harris. It is because she's a woman.
Do you get me, sweetheart?
Now, I'm just joking. I do have my own views as to whether or not a woman should be president. But honestly, we don't even have to get into that today, because it is this woman that is actually the problem. This is why men don't want to vote for Kamala. Might it have something to do with the fact that this woman was responsible for swindling her way into office without any democratic process whatsoever? Might there be a little bit of resentment about that? Maybe we could go a little bit further and just say that it isn't that she's a woman, it is just that she's an incompetent woman.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Now, maybe if you're not willing to buy that because somehow you think that Willie Brown had nothing to do with Kamala getting into office in the first place and that she actually may just be an empty-headed suit, maybe if you're a Christian, as I am, maybe this is why you don't want to vote for Kamala Harris.
Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
For those who are listening to the podcast, that was Kamala Harris at a packed rally. When somebody shouted, "Jesus is Lord," she said, "I think you guys are at the wrong rally." Well, yeah, I think that's why I'm not voting for you. So maybe it's the way she was ushered into office. Maybe it's because of her hatred toward Christianity, obviously, and the policies that she promotes. Maybe it's because she's incapable of a genuine moment, like we saw in this clip with Molly Shannon, which is the most cringe thing you've ever seen.
Is there anything that you think that maybe I shouldn't bring up tonight?
Well, don't lie. Thou shalt not bear false witness to thy neighbor.
Indeed, especially thy neighbor's election results.
Just so you know, there will be a fact checker there tonight.
Oh, that's great. Who?
Jesus.
And maybe if you don't buy any of that, maybe you should listen to this, Democrats. Maybe we won't vote for Kamala Harris because whenever you tell us to do so, it sounds like this.
I'm speaking to men directly now. Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president.
So there's Barack Obama wagging his finger at black men and saying, obviously, if you guys don't want to vote for Kamala Harris, I mean, it's because you're a misogynist. It's because she's a woman. That's why you won't vote for her. This is tantamount to Joe Biden, of all people, the whitest kind of white, if there is such a thing as a white person, which, I don't know, I'm kind of like a beige pink. But the whitest of all white people would be Joe Biden, telling a group of black people that if you don't vote for him, then you're not black.
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
So maybe this kind of finger wagging doesn't actually work on people, and we want to vote for somebody not because they're a woman, but because of merit. I don't know, crazy idea. But we'll see in this next clip that this feminist speaking to Tim Poole isn't having any of that.
What did I say to this lady?
I watched his commentary in response to the Kamala. This lady, I have a name, Tim. I've called you your name. You can call me my name. My name's Nomiki Konst. I'm well known. I'm on the internet. You've commented about me before as this lady. So, Tim, you know, I saw your commentary about the manliness ad, and you said that that wasn't manly. That I don't think that men should be looking to other men to see what's manly. I mean, most heterosexual men want to persuade women because it's part of their, you know, it's how they live, right? Tim Poole, I'm just questioning why you're defining masculinity.
All right, let
women
Tim
aren't,
Poole.
because
Okay,
we're the ones.
Well, it's interesting that you think you should be able to define masculinity, but he can't. Tim Poole, your response?
I don't know why this lady keeps saying my name. I didn't say anything to her. I think I started this off by saying I agree with the left position that there is an inherent sexism problem in this country. That actually, I'm hearing this from some of the reporters that we have on the street, that there are young men, when asked why they wouldn't support Kamala Harris, they give no reason other than she's just a woman. So I certainly understand why the Harris campaign, Tim Walz and Harris, and their supporters are making videos trying to tell men, you know, here's how you can be masculine. So in particular, there's a couple ads. There's the white dude for Harris ad, and then there was another one that was put out, I believe it was by supporters, not the campaign officially, and a Tim Walz ad that were similar. And they're doing these things where they say, like, you know, I can fix a carburetor and I'm not scared of women. These things don't say anything to men. Now, we believe, I should say the commentary we had on this is that they were female-coded advertisements likely written by women for men. I think if you look at the trends that guys follow in terms of media, they're looking at action movies. It's rather stereotypical, but there is a lowest common denominator here. So I don't think you are convincing men to vote for women by making commercials where you say, here's how men should act. I don't think you need those arguments for men. I think if there's a struggle with men, I wonder if the issue is not that it's a point of convincing these men, but that you actually just have guys who are sexist. And how you overcome that's a challenge I don't quite know. But I think when we criticize and mock, say, a cringe commercial, it's because it's certainly not the way to do it.
Now, throughout this very odd interaction between this lady and Tim Poole, you're going to see her consistently attack Tim Poole kind of baselessly, as though she knows every single audience member or person that follows Tim Poole and knows that every single one of them hate women somehow and they're just deeply stupid. And if we'll just listen to this woman define manhood for us, then all of a sudden we can be enlightened, as it were. So again, maybe I say this. Maybe when the Democrats speak to men, they don't like being condescendingly spoken to. I don't know, but maybe that's just me. So when Kamala goes and speaks to men, it is clear that she's not actually interested in speaking to men. She's actually interested in allowing feminists to change what manhood is in order to try to blackmail men into voting for her. And this is exactly what was on display in this Kamala Harris ad about manhood.
I'm a man.
I'm a man.
I'm a man, man.
And I'm man enough. I'm man enough to enjoy a barrel-proof bourbon.
Neat.
Man enough to cook my steak rare.
Man enough to deadlift 500 and braid the out of my daughter's hair.
You think I'm afraid to rebuild a carburetor? I eat carburetors for breakfast.
I ain't afraid of bears.
That's what bear hugs are for.
I'll tell you another thing I sure as am not afraid of. Women. I'm not afraid of women.
I'm not afraid of women.
They want to control their bodies? I say go for it.
They want to use IVF to start a family? I'm not afraid of families.
They want to be childless cat ladies?
Have all the cats you want.
Woman wants to be president?
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Because I'm man enough to support women.
Man enough to know what kind of donuts I like.
Man enough to admit I'm lost, even when I refuse to ask for directions.
Man enough to not ban young women from reading Little Women.
Or one of those pants books that the sisters like.
Man enough to raw dog a flight. It sucked. Not worth it. I'm man enough to be emotional in front of my wife.
In front of my kids.
In front of my horse. I'm man enough to tell you that I cry at Love Actually. Good Will Hunting.
West Side Story.
That and predator.
And I'm sick of so-called men domineering, belittling, and controlling women just so they can feel more powerful.
Never have I met a man that spoke like this, is what the Bible says. And I feel the same way about this ad. So I don't personally identify with a single male voice in that ad whatsoever. Now, admittedly, the one guy that says he braids girls' hair and that he cleans like 500 pounds, I don't have girls, so I don't braid the bleep out of hair. But also, I know something about weightlifting, and that dude does not get anywhere close to 500 pounds. And men don't generally like to go around bragging about how much they lift, unless you're a very superficial dork. But I do bench 285, by the way. Also, I don't really care about my feelings or telling my wife my feelings. I don't own a truck, but if I did, I would definitely not sit on it like this very heterosexual man.
Well, I hope she has the guts to look me right in the eye and accept my full-throated endorsement.
Full-throated endorsement. So again, when you condescend to men and you treat them like they're stupid, they don't like that. Maybe I'll just speak for myself and say, yeah, not a big fan. But you know who else doesn't like that? Women also don't like to be spoken to like they're stupid. And you know who else doesn't like that? Since there are only men and women, sorry leftists, no one likes to be spoken to like they're a bunch of idiots. So this is the problem with Kamala Harris. She cannot speak to men because she is not actually interested in speaking to men. She's just interested in their vote. And we'll see that in this one final clip.
I'll play another clip, which is a response from Lord Jamar, the rapper and record producer, to what he heard from Obama there.
Well, I feel that she's so bad that guess what? I might just go around and vote for Trump. And this is my first time saying this out loud. But y'all think you're going to shame somebody or bully into voting for this? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And now you're going to make me be Mr. Anti. You keep coming at me with this bullshit. You keep coming at me talking about, oh, it's a shame that you're not supporting a black woman. She's not black.
Vaja, wow. I watched that, and I was interested because I think if I was a black American, and I'm neither, but if I was, I would have thought that Obama intervention was quite patronizing.
Yeah, so you're not a black man, and you're going to be probably, if you were a black man, you might be one of the 12% that vote Republican. Historically, 88% vote Democrat, and it seems like this time around, 88% are going to vote Democrat. The same thing happened in 2012. There was a discussion within black America that some people said, hey, Obama, don't talk down to black men like this because black men will actually support Kamala, and don't be swayed by the 12% or the 15% or Lord Jamal, who, by the way, has never voted before. It seems like this is a manufactured controversy, but guess what? I'm glad the one thing we all agree on in this panel, I'm being sincere about here, is we all agree that misogyny and racism exists in America, and we all agree that it plays a part. And we agree, and we should agree, that there's a double standard that Kamala Harris, as the first black Indian woman, has to basically overcome. She has to pole vault over this. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has no plans. He's selling black people shoes. Yesterday, Kamala Harris said, here's my plan for black men. He actually comes up with a comprehensive plan that will actually help young black men. And by the way, that is going to resonate. What does Donald Trump do? Sways to music for 39 minutes, talks about Hannibal Lecter, talks about black jobs, says Kamala Harris has turned black, talks about black criminality in the urban warfare of Detroit, mocks Detroit, a place where he's speaking, a major city in a swing state he needs to win. This is what he does for black people. He's racist. He hangs out with racists. He supports Nazi talking points, literally talking about poisoning the blood.
And yet,
he hangs out with Nick Fuentes,
just to jump in, Vaja,
and a racist.
Okay,
Meanwhile, Kamala Harris,
I know.
Kamala Harris actually comes up with a plan, and you say she has no plan.
But you see, what's
Why?
interesting? Right. What's interesting to me, Vaja, is despite everything you've just said, Trump's support amongst black Americans, particularly black male Americans, has been rising steadily now for the last 2 years, which would be apparently inexplicable given what you've just said. They don't perceive him that way. And it looks like from the polling that what they really believe is that Trump will get stuff like the economy done better than Kamala has proven to have done in the last nearly 4 years as part of the Biden administration. So you can say as much as you like that he's a disgusting racist, Nazi, blah, 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 but you can't explain to me, unless you've got a good reason, why so many more black men in particular in America are gravitating away from a black candidate to Trump.
Piers, there's also so much disinformation, thanks specifically to right-wing media, and also in part due to Russian influence media, that a majority of Republicans believe Trump more than their own pastors, their family members, and right-wing media.
People.
And also, they believe, they believe that Donald Trump won the 2020 election that he lost. This is what we're dealing with,
Actually,
which is why
hang on,
this
you don't
election
know that
should.
Badger Hat. You have no idea why those people.
What do you mean?
You don't know that all the black American men who gravitated to Trump all believe he had that election
I'm not
stolen.
talking about black American men.
Well, I am. That was my question
I'm
to
talking
you.
about disinformation.
No, but my specific question for you was, if he's so racist, why are so many more? Excuse me, I've had man flu. I'm sure you all feel desperately sorry for me.
Sure.
But you don't explain to me, and you haven't done yet, why is it that his support amongst the black vote in America has been rising pretty consistently now for the last year and a half, 2 years? Why?
Sure. I will say two things. Number one, wait till the election results. I will not be surprised if it comes back to 88-12, 85-15, Kamala Trump. Number two, there is misogyny. And there is a misogyny that exists within black communities as well, which is why Obama and others, and some black men didn't like the way he said it, but they're saying, hey, listen, support this candidate. She is the right candidate. She has the experience. She has the capacity. She will do it right. Misogyny is not just limited to white men or black men or brown men or South Asian men. Unfortunately, it is a global problem, and we're seeing it persist and come out, unfortunately, in this election because we have a qualified candidate, Kamala Harris, who happens to be a black Indian woman.
Now, I have to admit, I hate to step in the way while this guy is firmly sticking his foot in his mouth, but everything that he just said is total nonsense, and it adds to why Kamala is going to lose, hopefully. The fact that he just comes out there and says the reason that men won't vote for Kamala Harris is because of disinformation and Russia, of course. I mean, could you just pull the Democratic, slot machine handle and just spit out another word salad? Maybe like insurrection is the only thing that you forgot there. And by the way, it isn't misogyny either. However, I am glad to hear that misogyny is something that blacks and whites and all men across the board share. It's not even relegated to race. Now, racism, according to the left, is only something that white people can do against other minorities. But here, misogyny, I guess, is just kind of open free market capitalism idea. It's the one thing that they don't want to be socialist about. Or something else is at play. Or simply, they use these kind of blackmail tactics, calling people racist, misogynist, homophobic, or whatever. They do that simply to try to blackmail people into their positions, simply because they want votes and they want power. They don't actually believe that a person is truly misogynistic, and if they do, it's just because they've been swallowing their black pills for far too long. They don't actually believe that people are homophobic. They don't really think that homosexuals are that scary because, point of fact, they aren't.
Oh, I see. So you don't want to see a close-up picture of my anus because you hate gay men.
No.
What they know is that if you make people feel bad enough, you can extort them and guilt them into taking your positions. This is why they speak to men like they're stupid. This is why they try to extort people into their positions, because it's an effective way at weighing on the consciences of people that I would argue still have largely been influenced by Christian values. People want to be good. They want to be seen as good. They want to do what's right. Sometimes they don't know what that is, and therefore they can be tricked into certain positions. But honestly, I don't just simply want to blame feminists and leftists for speaking to men generally the way that men are spoken to in the culture today. I want to blame men. And I know those who are in the manosphere out there are going to say, oh yeah, well, we find another way to blame men. Well, I do, largely. The reason leftists speak to men, especially leftist women speak to men the way that they do, is simply because men jumped into the feminist snare with both feet happily. In the 70s and the 60s, when they told them free love, and we don't have to be bound by sexual mores, men, with their tongues out of their mouth, absolutely loved the idea. The problem is that a woman cannot instinctually respect a man that is just going to use her for sex. She knows that that does not make an actually good man. And so because of the sexual moral values of the left and just the moral values of the left in general, that many left-wing men have just adopted since the feminist movement has been kind of taking over, and telling men what to do, and men have gladly done so for whatever reason they've done it. Women instinctually cannot respect a man for that because they know somewhere deep down inside that a man is supposed to be a leader and a man is supposed to actually stand up for what he believes in and not just go along wherever the feminist leash leads him. There are going to be people who argue that no one does this intentionally. No one really speaks to a man in a condescending way because of the way that historically men have given in to the feminist movement. I'm going to say that I think you are correct that this is not very intentional, but it is something that is kind of cultural, that is done but not known it is done. It is kind of like social Darwinism. So it's as if it was deeply embedded into the DNA of a human being such that they do it and they do not realize it. Feminists speak down to men because they do not respect men who buy into the feminist movement. And men have demoralized themselves such to the point where it is only fitting that someone speak to them in a condescending and stupid manner. But we need men to step up and start acting like men. And one of the ways that they can do that is by not voting for a woman simply because she's a woman, because that would be an emotional choice. The more logical choice would be, I'm going to vote for somebody who has good policies, and I'm going to vote for somebody who will create a better future for all Americans. Unlike Kamala, in my opinion. But it turns out, throughout this whole conversation, we do learn something interesting about feminists. They do need men. You know, the feminists of old who said, we need a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Turns out they were totally lying. They do need men. It's just that they want men submissive and dumb and shallow so that they can be manipulated. Now, admittedly, some men will oblige if they get certain benefits in the process. I just wouldn't classify them as men. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and go with God.